Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the May 5th, 2026 Public Board Meeting of the Halton District School Board. These meetings are open to the public so that all can see and hear our deliberations and how each trustee votes on the business before us in an open and transparent manner. I would like to extend a special welcome to our guests, both in person and online. We're happy to have you join us this evening. We will start with the roll call. Vice Chair Oliver.
Good evening, everyone.
Trustee Baxter.
Good evening.
Trustee Bryden.
Good evening.
Trustee Daniele.
Thank you, I'm here.
Trustee Gray.
Yes, hello.
Trustee Horn.
Good evening, everyone.
Trustee Rocha.
Good evening.
Trustee Wubenhorst.
Good evening.
Trustee Zhang.
Good evening.
Student Trustee Ho.
Good evening.
Trustees Ahmed and Student Trustee Shu have both sent regrets for this evening's meeting, so we do need to pass a motion. Be it resolved that the board authorize the absence of Trustee Ahmed from the May 5th, 2026 board meeting. Vice Chair Oliver, would you please move this motion?
I move this motion.
Trustee Wubenhorst, would you second this motion?
I'll second the motion.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the absences are approved by unanimous consent. Director Ennis, please let us know which staff are in attendance.
Sorry, point of order. As that previous motion, does it not have to come to the floor for voting?
No, I asked if there was any discussion and there was no one wishing to speak.
Okay, so then if we can backtrack, I vote against the motion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, let's put it to a vote then. Please cast your vote. Shinyi, would you please vote? Thank you. That motion passes, but not unanimously. In favor were Trustees Daniele, Oliver, Zhang, Baxter, Gray, Wubenhorst, and myself, and opposed was Trustee Bryden, Rocha, and Horn. Thank you. Moving on, Director Ennis, please let us know which staff are in attendance this evening.
Thank you, Chair Collard, and good evening, everyone. It's good to see you. We have a full complement of staff here this evening to support the meeting.
Thank you very much. Tonight, Trustee Bryden will be honoring the land.
We begin by acknowledging the land and our responsibility to care for and respect all that provides us with life. This land upon which HCSB is situated is on the ancestral treaty and title lands of the Anishinaabe Ojibwe Michizagi Nation, now known as the Mississaugas of the Credit. Michizagi territory in the past and present continues to host both Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. The HCSB is committed to continuous knowledge building with respect to actions that address and resolve the ongoing impacts of colonialism. We do this by learning and understanding the true history, treaty obligations, duties and responsibilities, and Indigenous rights, while actively maintaining mutually beneficial relationships and collectively respecting and caring for the land.
Thank you very much, Trustee Bryden. We are now up to item 1.3, approval of the agenda. Trustee Daniele, would you make a motion to approve the agenda?
Yes, I would.
And Trustee Zhang, would you like to second this motion?
I second. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any objections to approving the agenda? Seeing none, the agenda is approved by unanimous consent. We are up to item number 2 for declarations of possible conflict of interest. Are there any declarations this evening regarding our agenda? Seeing none, we now move up to section 3.0, delegations, presentations to the board, and our first order of business under this item is the Inspire Awards. I will pass the gavel to Trustees Horn and Oliver, the co-chairs of the Inspire Awards, to preside over this evening's awards.
Good evening, everyone, and it's so great to see so many people here to support our Inspire Awards and our board and other matters that are coming to the table tonight. So as you know, each month the trustees take a moment at the beginning of our board meeting to honor those unsung heroes who give so much back to the HDSB. Tonight, we have 6 awards to celebrate those who have made a difference here, as well as 3 which will be presented at the award winners' schools. So we're going to start with those who are here in our gallery. And I'm going to pass the mic over to Vice Chair Oliver to read about our first award winner.
Good evening. It is our pleasure to present the Inspire Award to PIC Conference committee members, Ali Chaudhry, Tara Cochran, and Tracy Peters. I will invite the recipients to please come up to the front, and I will invite Chair Amy Collard to make the presentation. And I will read out the nomination. Back in January, we recognized the PIC Conference Committee as a whole for its outstanding work. While Ali, Tara, and Tracy were unable to be present at January awards, as integral members of the committee, we are pleased to take this opportunity to acknowledge their important contributions. The PIC Conference Committee is an extraordinary group of volunteers whose unwavering dedication has been the driving force behind the success of the 2025-26 school year Parent Involvement Committee Conference. Meeting weekly since the start of the school year, this team expertly managed the complex logistics of organizing workshop presenters, community tables, food, child minding, and event volunteers to execute a seamless event in just a few short months. As passionate leaders, their innovative spirit shone through, and they have gone above and beyond to connect with school communities, building on collaboration that was met with enthusiastic feedback. By building meaningful connections and prioritizing parent engagement within the HDSB, the committee has created a lasting impact that directly supports student success. The true measure of their achievement lies in the excitement already building for next year, providing that their commitment to creating a welcoming and informative environment has truly inspired the community. Congratulations to you. And next up, I will invite Trustee Carol Baxter to present the Inspire Award to Nancy Hardcastle from Abbey Lane Public School. Hi, Nancy. As a volunteer, Nancy is a shining example of what it means to support a community. Nancy continues to go above and beyond for Abbey Lane Public School long after her own children have graduated. For more than a decade, she has generously dedicated her time to essential programs and thoughtful planning. As a leader among volunteers, Nancy makes a genuine effort to connect with every student, consistently demonstrating the empathy and kindness that define an exceptional community member. Her unwavering commitment has inspired others to become involved, strengthening the spirit of the school community. Even as the school has evolved over the years, Nancy's dedication has remained constant. Her lasting impact on students and families of Abbey Lane reflects not only her generosity, but also her deep-rooted commitment to creating a caring and connected community. Her legacy of compassion will undoubtedly continue to be felt for many years to come. And huge congratulations to you, Nancy.
Okay, so next up, we're going to have Bonnie Hussein, who is from White Oak Secondary School, and Trustee Wubenhorst is going to give out the award. Bonnie, as a dedicated leader and compassionate teacher, you have been an integral support for students in your role as Student Success Lead at White Oak Secondary School. Known as the go-to person for those in need, you have worked closely with families and staff to ensure that students receive the care and guidance they need to thrive. You also are a strong advocate for student well-being, playing a key role in supporting the school's food program and helping ensure students have access to what they need each day. Bonnie, your approach is rooted in connection and building relationships. You meet students when they are, bringing a calm, non-judgmental, and solution-focused mindset that prioritizes their overall well-being. By encouraging colleagues to think creatively and lead with empathy, you have created a culture of care and collaboration. Your can-do attitude and genuine dedication have made a lasting impression on both staff and students, establishing you as a true role model within the school community. Bonnie, congratulations. Now, I know we're waiting for one of our cheerleaders to come, and I don't know if they're here yet, but I'm going to now ask Kelly Peterson and Colleen Owen to come up to receive their award, which is going to be presented by Trustee Bryden. So my son was one of the nominators for this award, so I'm going to try very hard to hold it together as I read the award to these two amazing people. So Kelly and Colleen, as one of the parents of the nominators of this award, I know how amazing and lasting of an impact you had on the Spain crew. Although many of them are unable to be here tonight, I know how excited they were that they were able to recognize you for an experience that they will remember for years to come. So, for those of you who are unaware, Colleen and Kelly gave up their spring break to take a group of children from Aldershot to Spain for an unforgettable educational journey. Through the experience, they created meaningful learning opportunities that extended far beyond the classroom, bringing curriculum to light through real-world exploration. They skillfully guided their students through the many moving parts of international travel, ensuring everyone remained organized, supported, and felt safe. They also provided steady, compassionate care throughout the trip, helping students navigate both the excitement and complexity of travel with confidence while creating shared experience that strengthened the group's sense of community. I heard about the card games. By creating an environment rooted in growth and curiosity, Kelly and Colleen, you have left a lasting impact on the students. Their leadership not only shaped the enriching travel experience that everyone had, but also helped to inspire a vibrant culture of learning that will continue to influence the students for years to come. Thank you so much.
And now I will invite Trustee Donna Daniele to present the Inspire Award to Shifu Sadev of Boyne Public School. As an educator who truly puts children first, Ms. Sadev is recognized for her unwavering care and dedication to her kindergarten students. She creates a dynamic learning environment where children are empowered to explore centers they enjoy while being thoughtfully challenged to reach their full potential. She supports each child's growth with patience and intention, meeting them where they are at and helping them build confidence in both their learning and themselves. By setting a wonderful example of respect and empathy, she encourages her students to treat one another with the same kindness she shows them every day. Beyond the classroom curriculum, Ms. Sadev creates a safe and nurturing space that lays the foundation for a lifelong love of school and education. Her commitment to building these early connections helps ensure her students carry curiosity, confidence, and a passion for learning with them throughout their lives. Congratulations to you.
So we have been able to celebrate 6 people or groups of people tonight to recognize the amazing contributions they have made. Local trustees will be lucky enough to visit or have already visited, because I've already given out one, schools of the other 3 winners for the awards that will be presented at the schools. And they include Andrea Bremner from Pauline Johnson Public School, who was giving her award yesterday, Caitlin Ferrone from M.M. Robinson High School, and Robert Iannuzzi from Tom Thompson Public School. So again, I know how meaningful and impactful these awards are, not only to the recipients, but to the people who give out the awards too. So I challenge you to continue to help to shine the light on those who inspire. We have 1 month left in this school for you to nominate. So I know, again, as I said yesterday, I was at Pauline Johnson giving out the award to Andrea, and there is a member there, and there's Pluto, she made it. So this is a late cheerleader for Colleen and Kelly, so thank you for coming. I challenge you to get out there and nominate. There's a member of Pauline Johnson staff who's inspired to try to nominate a new person every month to ensure that people are recognized for the work that they do. Nominate someone today, tomorrow, or whenever you see somebody who's making that impact on the community. Go to the HDSB website where you can find the nomination form. I encourage you to do so, and I look forward to seeing a whole bunch of new nominations next month. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. A well done job to both of you this evening. We move on now to the student trustee report, and student trustee Ho, please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Good evening, trustees, superintendents, and viewers. I'm Student Trustee Ho, and it feels really great being back. Student Trustee Shu sends his regards as he's currently studying for the very important IB exams. So I'll be happy to share what the 2 of us have been doing during the month of April. It's a very long list, so buckle in. To start, on Thursday, April 23rd, the student trustees and Senate co-chairs hosted our final junior council meeting of this school year. The meeting included many ways we engaged with our incredible grade 5 and 6 student leaders, from Director Innes's inspiring speech to the students giving a recap of how HLF went for them. It was incredibly moving and inspiring to hear how the students were able to help fundraise for the Halton Learning Foundation, including freebie sales, selling cookies, and rock, paper, scissors competitions. Some other very creative ways of fundraising included, for every $50, a teacher would get pied in the face, as well as coffee fundraisers to engage parents as broader but equally important members of the school and HDSB community. Overall, I believe that it was a very fantastic year for the Junior Council, and Trustee Shu and I would like to thank especially our incredible staff mentors, Blair Hode and Kyla Pellerin, whose incredible passion and hard work towards the Junior Council and organizing everything would not be forgotten. Moving along, on Wednesday, April 15th, we organized our April Senate meeting, which was definitely very, very special. We had the incredible honor of having Director Innes and Associate Director Petco give yet another very heartwarming and inspiring speech to our senators, which definitely showed us the power of student voice, the importance of the Senate, and why the HCSB is the best school board for educational, extracurricular, and developmental needs of any student. In addition, we had our Student Senate subcommittees present two amazing 40-minute long, 100% student-led workshops. One from our Indigenous Rights and Education subcommittee and one from our Kindness, Connection, and Community subcommittee. As an individual who usually facilitates these workshops and presentations to the Senate, I was incredibly impressed and inspired by the amazing work these senators, even down to the young age of grade 7, were able to present. What was even better was seeing how attentive and collaborative the whole Senate was in supporting these presenters and learning from their peers. It was truly an amazing way to kick off the month of April, and our senators will be taking what they learned from these workshops back to their schools to educate their own peers. Next, during this meeting, we had time to hear from our wonderful Halton Youth Leadership Symposium Directors of Operations, Grace and Bulldorf. They then collaborated to initiate an HYLS workshop working session where student leaders collaborated with their teams to create workshops for our upcoming conference. To recap what HYLS kind of is, it stands for the Halton Youth Leadership Symposium, and it is our flagship Senate conference that invites grade 5 and 6 students to join our Senate in an afternoon of leadership, learning, and professional development. It is always incredibly exciting and a great way to showcase just how much the Senate is capable of. Almost every senator I've spoken to in my 2 years in this role recounts HYLS as either the reason they wanted to be a student senator or even a student trustee in the future, or also just something they look forward to every year. I'm excited to report back on how HYLS goes next month, as it will be taking place towards the end of May. Moving on, Trustee Hsu and I are happy to announce that we have closed submissions for the HDSB Washington Campaign Art Competition, which resulted in a total of over 200 submissions across 9 categories and age brackets combined. From inspiring poetry to creative posters and even digital art, Trustee Hsu and I were very pleased to see so many students dedicated towards using their creative talents and skills to raise awareness about washroom cleanliness. Now, Trustee Hsu and I have created a plan to rally student senator panels to judge the artworks in determining a winner for the different categories, who will then go on to be recognized. All throughout this campaign, and although it's still not over, I would definitely count this phase as a success, especially in promoting kindness, connection, and community. In addition, our washroom reporting QR codes are also rolling out and are currently being tested at White Oak Secondary School to great success. Trustee Hsu and I are excited to report on this more in our next board meeting, where we hope to more thoroughly examine and analyze the results of this campaign as a whole. Looking forward, Trustee Hsu, myself, and our incoming student trustee Liu are very excited to be attending the Osta ACO annual general meeting towards the end of May. From reconnecting with student trustee peers, for the last time for myself, to elections for provincial roles, and just a very inspiring weekend ahead full of professional development and networking. This will be my 3rd and final AGM, and I have made some incredible friends from the past 2 that I have attended, so it will definitely be very bittersweet. Additionally, this Thursday, Trustee Hsu and I are excited to be attending the Student of Excellence Night, celebrating the various Students of Excellences from all schools across HSB doing great things. I am very honored to have been named the Student of Excellence at Abbey Park, so I'll be, thank you. So I'll be experiencing this night as an attendee while Jay helps with the award ceremony. I recall going to this event last year, and it was definitely one of the highlights of my term, so I can't wait for the wonderful evening of celebrations ahead. Finally, to end off this student trustee report with something I think has been on the minds of many students, especially those moving into the next chapter of their lives through post-secondary plans, I want to highlight the dedication to excellence and student achievement that I've seen in every single aspect of the HDSB. You may have seen that I was absent during the last 2 board meetings, and that is because I was attending admitted students weekends on the campuses of Stanford, Princeton, and Harvard University, all 3 of which I have been accepted to. Thank you. It's been really incredible, and I am incredibly excited to announce that I'll be attending Harvard University next year, pursuing a double concentration in economics and philosophy. And I just wanted to say that this would not be possible without the commitment of the Halton District School Board to its philosophy of uplifting students and supporting their academic, leadership, and service achievements at every single level. As an example, this weekend I read a very inspiring article posted by the HDSB about a 2016 student trustee named Dasha Metropolinsky, who actually graduated from Harvard a few years ago and now is conducting world-changing research and generating exciting contributions at Microsoft in the realm of artificial intelligence. I actually reached out to her, so hopefully we'll be having coffee soon. But I believe that this just goes to show not only how incredible the resources at the HDSB currently are, but have been throughout the past decade and longer. The HDSB's alumni are genuinely so inspiring to me as someone who hopes to continue to make change in university and beyond, and is also so incredibly diverse, from Olympians to researchers to every single other role imaginable. The HDSB secondary school pathway supports that I have encountered, resources for scholarships, and empathy from every single teacher and staff member I've encountered are just some of the many reasons why this success continues to happen. And I wanted to shout out my guidance counselor, Miss P from Abbey Park High School, who continued to meet my very consistent guidance visits with a smile and encouragement always. I'm so proud to soon be an HDSB alumna, and I hope can continue to uplift and inspire students to meet their fullest potentials for more decades to come. With that, this concludes my board meeting for May 5th. We look forward to giving our final updates and an overview of our terms during our June report. Thank you so much.
Trustee Ho, what can I say? Wow. Wow, wow, wow. You have such wonderful adventures ahead of you, and I know that we still have a couple of meetings to go before the year ends, but let me just give you my heartfelt congratulations. It has been my honor and privilege to be at this table with you and witnessing your hard work. Congratulations. Is there any other trustee that wishes to speak? No questions? Okay. Thank you very much for your report. We are now up to 3.4 delegations. As per our delegation governance procedure, each delegate will be allowed up to 5 minutes to present their delegation. Delegates must refrain from using derogatory language and from making statements that would personally identify individuals, including students, staff, community members, or trustees. Any delegate who fails to adhere to this restriction will be ruled out of order by the chair, and their presentation will be immediately terminated. I would like to welcome Mark Graham to the speaker's podium, which is directly in front of me at the other end. The timer for your delegation will show on the screen. Please monitor your time accordingly. You are allowed up to 5 minutes for your delegation. The button on the microphone is at the base. When the red light is on, your mic is hot.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity to present, and it's nice to be back at the Halton Board, where I haven't been for a quarter century when I was sitting in student trustee Ho's seat over there. And I also studied economics and philosophy in university, but not at Harvard. My family and I live on Danecourt Drive, which is in Zone 6. And I've got sons in grade 4 and grade 1 at Central, and a daughter attending JK at Central next year. I want to just express our support for the recommendation of option 14B to you. I think it's a reasonable way to minimize disruption to school communities and families and neighborhoods, given the intention to engage in the PAR process when it becomes available. But I'll just say a couple things about the other alternatives that are presented to the board. Obviously, the status quo also achieves that same objective of minimizing disruption. I know you have other objectives to consider. For options, the two 13 options, 13C and 13D, just want to express briefly like our community's concern with those options. 13C, I think, came up at the last consultation meeting before the public meeting. And the rationale given was, I think, to try to reduce the number of students at Central was really the intention. But if you look at the planning department's own projections, at the time the changes would come into effect, the projection is it reduces the number of students at Central by 1. So I don't think that is probably the real rationale. And the community hasn't been able to engage with whatever the rationale was for that recommendation. And so if there is one, I think we'd be happy to sort of engage on that, but we're not aware of what it is. And I just want to express that both that and 13D, which take like our family, our community from Central and send them to Tom Thompson. I understand how it makes some logical sense if you're looking at a map and you don't live in the area, because the two schools, for some of the homes at least, are relatively proximate if you just draw a line on a map. But in the actual community, the way it's oriented, the orientation is south and west. And like my kids who ride their bikes around the neighborhood and you know, walk to friends' houses around the neighborhood, and they don't walk north and east because of just the way the streets are designed, the way the traffic patterns are. And so it really does take a neighborhood of people out of their neighborhood school and into a school that is just, for whatever reason, the way urban neighborhoods flow not in their neighborhood. And that's not obvious from looking at it on a map, but it was a really strong reaction in our community. And in fact, I know a lot of people with intention to send their students to St. John's, which is still in the neighborhood, as you know, across the street from Central, rather than to Tom Thompson, if that were the way that the boundaries were redrawn. So that's the only comment I wanted to make on those two options in case they came up, and I'm happy to give you 2.5 minutes back.
Thank you. We appreciate that. At this time, trustees have time to ask questions of the delegate. If you have questions, please enter your request to speak in the system. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions, so we gained 10 more. Okay, I don't see you in the system, but that's all right. Go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. And I'm not sure how this works because I think I'm able to ask staff a question regarding the. Can I ask you a question, Fred?
No, you can only ask the delegate the question. Questions for staff come when we're viewing the actual report.
Okay, Fred, if you remind me, I got a question for you later. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you very much. We have a second delegate this evening. So I'd like to welcome Jordan Fairburn and Amanda Robinson to the speaker's podium. And again, the timer for your delegation will show on the screen. Please monitor your time accordingly. You are allowed up to 5 minutes for your delegation. Please begin when you're ready.
Good evening. I'm Jordan Fairbairn. I'm speaking today on behalf of myself and Amanda Robinson as official delegates, as well as other Tom Thompson parents, Aaron Hodge, Christian Caron, Jackie Noble, Becky Houlihan, and Amanda Smith. We would like to thank the Boundary Review Steering Committee for all their work on this review, and would also like to especially acknowledge all the parent representatives for their thoughtful and thorough work on this process. I particularly appreciated the posting of the meeting notes and recordings, not only because watching the recordings made time doing the dishes fly by, but also and especially for the transparency they provided to the process. We have followed this process closely and would like to speak in favor of the proposed option 14B today. Option 14B addresses the necessary boundary review objectives of addressing the split cohorts and providing some balance to enrollments. As was clear from the committee's review process and the resulting report, there is no path forward at this time that will be able to address the initial boundary review objective of removing portables from Tom Thomson without putting program sustainability at risk. While each of the proposed options maintains portables at TT, it is 14B that, according to the final options, actually provides the fewest portables from 2027 to 2031. As the report notes, under the current structure, maintaining a viable program at Tom Thomson Public School inherently requires the school to operate over capacity. There are clearly bigger picture structural issues that need to be addressed in Southwest Burlington, as the committee's report indicates. Given this reality, the goal of this review should be to minimize disruption and risk to what is working well and to not simply transfer and potentially exacerbate capacity issues to another school. The board report notes that option 14B aligns with the multi-year strategic plan priority, learning, engagement, and achievement by addressing ongoing pressures at TT through redirecting future development along Fairview Street. In addition, I would like to speak to two additional pillars of the multi-year plan. First, kindness, connection, and community. The multi-year plan states that connection and community occur from strengthening relationships among students, staff, families, and beyond to support positive community engagement. Option 14B maintains these strong relationships. We have a thriving and connected community and French immersion culture at TT. This comes from decades of effort from teachers, staff, admin, parents, and students who have invested years in building connections, relationships, and community. The last 5 years has been a huge rebuilding after the impacts of COVID. The collaborations among FI and English stream teachers have built bilingual outdoor and experiential learning education, facilitated bilingual cultural events for the entire school, and presented so many other learning opportunities for all students. The teacher community is strong and able to offer diverse extracurricular programs and clubs. Our parent council has rebuilt after COVID. We have an amazing breakfast program that involves 20 plus volunteers each week and cooks and serves breakfast to between 100 and 150 children every morning. Removing French immersion from Tom Thomson potentially removes a majority of parent council members and school volunteers. The connection and community here at TT also supports the second pillar of the multi-year plan that we want to speak to, mental health and wellness. The key objectives of this pillar are to, 1, build and maintain healthy relationships and supportive and safe environments, and 2, promote and support the mental well-being of students and staff. Option 14B means less student and staff disruption and therefore less stress on families. Building and maintaining healthy relationships in safe and supportive environments takes years to build. The staff at Tom Thomson have built this supportive and safe environment for students, and it is my opinion as a parent that staff knowledge about maintaining a thriving school community and their lived reality of supporting students should be part of any discussion about potential program changes from the outset of a boundary review process. Keeping the French immersion program at Tom Thomson ensures that students can continue to benefit from these relationships and thrive at the school where they feel safe and supported. It is a testament to this process that the committee has been able to look beyond a single metric, such as portables, to understand that those numbers on spreadsheets represent real children and real lives. Option 14B minimizes disruption and risk and best supports a strong community and the mental health and well-being of students, which should be the most important consideration in this boundary review. Thank you for your time. I made it.
Thank you very much. Yes, you did. You did well. Now, do we have any questions for this delegate? And I'm not seeing anyone buzzed in. Okay, Trustee Bryden.
Sorry, too slow to click. At the outset of your presentation, thank you, first of all. At the outset of your presentation, you mentioned that you were an official delegate. Are you representing school council? Was there a motion passed? Was there some mechanism by which you're an official delegate?
No, sorry, I just meant I'm here as a delegate in that way. I'm not officially I am on parent council, but I'm not officially representing the entire parent council.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, thank you very much. And I hope you'll stick around for the conversation that we'll be having later in the meeting. If not, you can listen to it from home or even when you're doing the dishes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, moving along. We have no presentations this evening. So we are now up to item 4 of our consent agenda. For approval, we have the Halton District School Board minutes from our meeting on April the 7th. For receipt, we have the outstanding action items, the board report schedule, the policy and governance procedure review schedule, the 26-27 annual school hour report, and for correspondence, we have 8 letters, all appended to 7 letters, all appended to the agenda. The motion is, be it resolved that the board approves the consent agenda and receive the information items for May 5th, 2026. Trustee Horn, would you make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Yes, I will.
Trustee Gray, would you second this motion?
Yes, I will.
Are there any items that need to be polled for discussion? Trustee Zhang.
I'd like to poll 4 to 4. This is a school hour.
School hours. Okay, what is your question?
Okay. For the school and school operation and school bus efficiency, and we adjusted the school bell time and the school schedule. So I noticed that some school the adjustment can be 10 minutes or more, like 20 minutes. So for the parents, a lot of parents are working parents. They have work, they go to different places, and so it's sensitive for the parents. I'd like to know if the school bell time change and the school route and the school bus schedule change. What is the impact to the like the before and after children care? Also, what is the impact to the existing, for example, how do we inform the parents? Because the parents need to make a different arrangement, and because they, like me, I take GO train every day, so that's a big change. Sometimes can cause a big challenge. So if we have effective way to inform the parents, let them to prepare for that change in advance, that would be better way. So
thank you very much, Trustee Zhang. I know there is an annual process to deal with this, and so I'm going to ask Director Ennis to respond.
Thank you, Chair Collard, and thank you, Trustee Zhang. I can certainly appreciate that any change in bell times would have an impact on families, and to that end, we have asked schools to reach out to their school councils and to their families to ask them about the impact on their lives. And so we're still gathering that information, and I know that sometimes we believe, just sort of from a high level, that it would be negatively impacting the lives of families, and sometimes they desire the change that we're making. And so it's important that we hear their voice. But I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Ngoy to add some further context.
Thank you for the question, Trustee Zhang. We do have an annual process to look at bell time change reviews. It is within the transportation policy eligibility and criteria, and within HSTS, we are looking between 0 and 20 minutes in terms of potential changes. They are done with an efficiency in mind. So in this case, it is containing costs for next year. So these are bell time changes for September. So they're not immediate, and communication will be going out to schools after this meeting. And discussions have been had with the school principal as well in advance. So in these cases, in terms of before and after care, for elementary schools, for example, the before and after care hours, the beginning and the end of the day is still 7 to 6 essentially. So it just changes that. It does not change necessarily shorten that time frame. So that's not one of the factors that will change for families. In terms of the secondary schools, they are aligned, all the secondary schools, so they are able to join in athletics and clubs and after school extracurricular activities when they're more aligned. LC McGill was one of the secondary schools that was a pilot. And for a later start date, they are welcoming an earlier start date to be aligned with their peers for all those reasons. So yeah, in this perspective, we're looking at being able to accommodate growth and the program expansion at other schools by having more flexibility with these bell times so that we can use the same buses and drivers to service more routes. As you know, we do have driver shortage challenges as well. So adding buses and drivers doesn't necessarily mean we are able to service all the routes, and there's still delays when we have driver shortages. So this is not new. This is something that the consortium does every year. Some years there's more changes, some years there's fewer. It just happens that this year we have a number of schools. There's also a number of Catholic schools impacted, but in this report we're just focusing on our schools. HSTS does provide transportation shared with our Catholic counterpart.
Thank you.
And a question from Trustee Rocha.
So through you, Chair, I wanted to pull 3 items from the consent agenda, one of them being the annual school hour report that Trustee Zhang brought up. So if I may, I'll start with that one and then I'll add my other 2. So my question is specifically regarding LC McGill Secondary School. There's a 20-minute time change that will start earlier. I'm pretty sure that the town of Oakville has extra buses, public transportation buses, running to LC McGill to accommodate students who want to take public transportation to school. Has there been any communication with the town of Milton to ensure that the town can change their schedule the 20 minutes earlier to help with student transportation there?
Through the chair, yes, there have been conversations, and the school bus special will be adjusted so that it can still service the community. So that's not a concern for that. And it really, the reason for the change is because now there's additional programs at that location that do require school bus transportation. So that allows for both the expansion of the programs and the continuation of transit school specials.
And the other 2 items?
So I'm going to ask Trustee Brighton if he has a question on the same topic, and if he does, then I'll ask my other 2 afterwards.
I do. Thank you. I currently sit as our board's representative on the HSTS Board of Directors. This proposal was approved last week by the HSTS Board of Directors. I believe it was entirely consistent with HSTS's procedure and mandate as it currently exists. And as Superintendent Nagoy said earlier, that mandate focuses exclusively on fiscal efficiency. To me, that's a problem. Because what we're doing with this change is moving ourselves negatively both for secondary schools and for elementary schools. Secondary schools, there is now a very large body of evidence that shows that earlier bell times for secondary schools mean that students sleep less. There's also a large body of evidence that shows when teenagers sleep less, it has consequences on their health and also on their ability to perform at school. So we should be moving in the opposite direction from what we're doing right here. To Trustee Zhang's point as well, there are consequences for elementary schools, particularly late start times for elementary schools are incredibly difficult for working parents. And there are families who choose to go down from full-time to part-time work because they need to be able to get their kids to and from school. And that's, those consequences are large. So in the moment, I think this is the correct decision by HSTS, and I would suggest to us, and I may bring such a suggestion to our next board meeting, that we propose, and this would require the support of our coterminous board as well, but that we propose an amendment that would allow us to consider additional factors in making school bell time decisions.
Thank you very much, Trustee Bryden. I welcome your report. Moving back to Trustee Rocha.
Okay, thank you. Through you again. So the other report I'd like to ask a question on is the outstanding action items, particularly to a motion that was made at the last board meeting. Let me just pull it up here on my screen. That was the motion that I made regarding writing a letter to the Minister of Health regarding the impact of vaccination reporting. Do you have an update as to where the letter is at?
Actually do, yes. The letter has been written for about a week and a half now. Unfortunately, the person that I was working with on the letter then took a week's vacation, and I only found out today that they're happy with the letter the way it is, and so it will be going out first thing in the morning.
All right, thank you very much. And then my other question, well, more of a request, it's regarding item 4.2.3, policies and governance procedures review schedule. Maybe it's a request for Manager Khan. Would it be possible to list the items in alpha order? So that way when we're searching for, so I'm not sure what the way it's ordered, but maybe if you can tell me which way it's ordered, but then my request would be maybe alpha order.
Good question. It's organized by due date. So that way all of the most urgent ones to review are at the top. So the ones that need the most attention are always at the top. Yeah. But
okay, that makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and seeing no other speakers to this, I'm going to ask if there are any objections to approving the remaining items on the consent agenda. Seeing none, the consent agenda is approved by unanimous consent. We are now up to section 5, items for ratification action, and our first item is 5.1.1, OPSPA voting delegate and Director's Performance Appraisal Committee appointments, striking committee. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the appointments as outlined in Report 26028. Vice Chair Oliver, would you move this motion?
I move this motion.
Trustee Gray, will you second this motion?
Yes, I will.
Vice Chair Oliver, would you like to speak to the report?
So as trustees are aware, these rules come into effect shortly as per guidelines, and trustees were asked to indicate their interest. The interest expression has been summarized in the report, and the committee membership has been brought forward for our consideration and approval. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any speakers. Maybe I'm on the wrong item. Just a second. Trustee Danielle.
Thank you very much. It's a very minor thing, and I apologize I didn't catch it before this. In item 1, the analysis, the first nugget, OPSPA voting delegate regional meetings and OPSPA voting alternate regional meetings, that should actually, according to the governance refresh of OPSPA, should read regional and membership meetings. That would ensure that is not that would ensure voting at the AGM and other such membership meetings. So I would just because it says approve as outlined below, I would suggest that we put the words "and membership" in between regional and meetings in both of those instances.
Thank you. And Trustee Roche.
Yeah, through you, Chair. So not a question directly impacting this report, but in the same vein, now that I sit on the PIC committee, I was looking through their bylaw and subsequently the Ontario regs, and it does mention that a trustee member should be appointed before their first meeting or November 15th. And I know in the past, we usually assign a trustee to PIC at our striking committee post November 15th. So seeing as how we're tweaking some of these membership dates and having a mini striking committee, I think it would be prudent to more closely align with the PIC bylaw and the ministry regulations, and perhaps assign a trustee representative to actually be able to sit at their first meeting in November. So not that we're going to do this today, obviously, but something for consideration for.
Thank you for that suggestion.
Yeah.
And as you are a member of Policy, Bylaw, and Governance, I expect that you are handily in a great position to do that work. I was just wondering, does the board actually schedule a meeting before it does? Okay. Okay, then. I think we're ready to vote. Thank you very much. That passed unanimously. Now we will move on to a very big motion, 5.1.2, Oakville Northeast No. 1 Secondary School and French Immersion Boundary Review. And I would like to ask General Manager Thibault to come forward and speak to the motion. We have adopted a process of not reading out large motions, so I'll ask that trustees review the motion on their own, and I will ask Trustee Wubbenhorst, would you move the motion?
Yes, I'm happy to move the motion. Thanks.
Trustee Baxter, would you second this motion?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Through Madam Chair to the Board of Trustees, I present to you for final approval the motion to implement the new boundaries for the Oakville High School, as well as a boundary realignment for T. Blakelock with regards to the French Immersion Program and how we're going to be deploying that over the next couple of years, as well as other parameters to continue monitoring what's going on with the French Immersion Program currently at T. Blakelock. On an ongoing basis, and also just with regards to us having to undertake a further review at a later date for the Oakville Northwest Boundary Review to re-examine the feeder schools that are going into Forest Trail, which will be subject to this, with the intent that at the end of all this, we have boundaries that are aligned with their grade 8 to grade 9 cohorts, and that we're minimizing the amount of splits as much as possible. Again, I'd be remiss without thanking the Boundary Review Steering Committee members that participated in this process, as well as our parent committee members that contributed to the development of these options and recommendations. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions that the Board of Trustees may have.
I'm not seeing any questions immediately, but I do want to congratulate you on having a boundary review as big as this and 0 delegations. That's unheard of. Trustee Wubbenhorst, would you like to say anything?
Just to reiterate, I think what I said at the Committee of the Whole the other day, that the process went very smoothly. I actually was at parent council meeting last night, and they were very pleased, and everybody is just thrilled about this new high school. And I have driven by in the last couple of weeks, and it looks like a school. So really exciting.
We like it when our schools look like schools. Yeah. Okay, then, seeing no other speakers, I'm going to call the vote. Thank you very much. That motion passes unanimously. And moving on to our final action item for this evening, amendments to appointments to committees and other roles, governance procedure, policy, bylaw, governance standing committee. And I'll put the motion on the floor. May it be resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the revised appointments to committees and other roles, governance procedure, and that all prior versions be revoked. Trustee Bryden, would you move this motion?
Yes.
Trustee Rocha, would you second this motion?
Yes.
Trustee Bryden, would you like to speak to the report?
The report is before you and includes a summary of the substantive amendments proposed.
Thank you. Looking for any debate? I'm not seeing any speakers on the list. Going once, going twice. Please cast your votes. Thank you very much. That does pass unanimously. Now we move on to our future action item, 5.2.1, Burlington Southwest Boundary Review, Report 26031, and again, General Manager Thibault.
Through you, Madam Chair, and to the Board of Trustees, we present to you this evening for future consideration the report outlining the draft recommendation for how we'd like to proceed at the conclusion of the Burlington Southwest Boundary Review that we've been undertaking since the essentially the beginning of January. As was discussed by the previous delegates, we are going and recommending option 14B as is the option that creates the least amount of movement of students, implements change in a slow fashion, addresses many of the issues, while acknowledging the other criteria that the Boundary Review Committee established and prioritized, and which was further supported by the community and the public information meetings that we had, both not just in terms of the support for the options, but in terms of how we were rating these criteria. As it was beyond just a matter of utilization, which is what started this review initially, but as per the process and as we explored different options and different priorities, this is where we ended up. As part of the intent to try to mitigate the impacts to students, and given that we are in a pretty urban, dense area with benefit of not having to rely too much on transportation, we're able to provide quite a bit of legacy exemptions for students so that they can continue on and graduate at their current schools with transportation for certain areas and grades, primarily those that'll be in grades 5 to 6 as of 2027, or 5 to 8 if for the K to 8 schools to come see primarily, as well as giving a guaranteed out-of-area attendance for K to 4 students that'll be in attendance at these schools, which won't come with transportation, but at least that way we can allow them to continue on. So overall, we also want to acknowledge as part of this, and I think we just want to make it clear, and it's less of a call to the ministry in terms of getting PARs going on again, but more just as a notification and in fairness to the community, is that there's been a lot of work that's been undertaken to find solutions to address some of the issues that we identified in terms of split cohorts, having good pathways for our students, and mitigating impacts. But the final works that really need to be looked at and undertaken is to undertake a full pupil accommodation review and ideally explore a K-8 model, because I would say that was one of the greatest challenges we had in this review, was trying to fit the puzzle pieces together for them to make sense, make sure that cohorts stayed together and there was continuity there, while ensuring that schools were suitably sized so we can support programs for both the English track and the French immersion program. And given that we had small schools and a number of them to deal with in small areas, there was significant challenges in doing that. But I think that the greatest work is still ahead of us at a later date, and we want to make sure the community is aware that this is our later intentions. It's also been something that's been clear in our past long-term accommodation plans that this is the work that we need to do. We've been holding off for a number of years, and this is just an interim step in as we wait for these new policies to come into effect. So with that, we found it suitable and perhaps a good idea just to keep this as part of the motion so that it's on record that we acknowledge future works are needed and that we await future direction to advance this. I do also want to extend a big thank you to our senior team that participated in this process. My colleagues in the planning services and facility services and planning departments, and very much so our parent representative. They were excellent in navigating this process, asking tough questions of staff, but fair questions, and really taking a process that, quite frankly, I didn't have good solutions to coming into it. We had ideas, but nothing perfect. But I think in working together collaboratively with all a good goal in mind, really work towards a solution that, albeit not perfect, none ever will be. I think it's one that the community is happy to support. As much as I'd love to think that, we had a lot of fun in all those meetings, they were challenging and they were long. So I know there's many things that they would have rather have done those evenings. Cookies are great, but so is, watching shows from home. But anyways, I do want to extend a big thank you and a great deal of appreciation for all the contributions they made, because this was a tough one. So happy to take any questions this evening from the Board of Trustees.
Thank you very much. There is a speakers list, so I'll go straight to Trustee Bryden.
Thank you very much. I just want to echo thanks to the committee and to General Manager Thibault as well for all the work that went into this. This was an in-depth process. They went through 20-ish options, more than that. And the Boundary Review Committee ultimately recommended 2 possibilities, and I was happy to support either of them. They were both well reasoned. And the one before you, neither of them is perfect, as was said. Both of them achieved certain things, and the thing that I want to highlight, while this on the surface might look like a minimal change to some, one of the goals that we set out with was to reduce split cohorts in this area, and there were some really challenging split cohorts. We have gotten rid of most of them with this design process, and that will make a big difference to some of those transitions that have been hard for students in a number of neighborhoods in Southwest Burlington. And then finally, I will say to the last point that when we talk about a pupil accommodation review, I don't know that I've ever seen a group of 20 parents get together and say, yeah, no, we actually need to close a school in our area before. And that's where this group was at by the end of the process. And that's a remarkable thing, that people can understand the challenges facing the board and what the ideal solution is, which is a K-8 facility in this area. And so while the motion itself from the board as a whole does not call directly on the ministry, as an individual trustee, I would like to echo that, and I know that we have submitted at pre-budget consultations and elsewhere, that the moratorium on school closures is not actually serving our schools at this point, and that we do need to be able to revisit that and look at how we provide the best programming for our students.
Thank you, Trustee Bryden. And moving on to Vice Chair Oliver.
Thank you very much for this report. I have sat on a number of boundary review committees, including the last one we just approved, and which of course I support. This one seems very complex to me, simply because of the scope and the number of schools and the fact that it appears that we do want to go towards a K-8 model. And my understanding is that PAR, Pupil Accommodation Review, would be really the only way to achieve that. So I'm wondering, and I hear and understand the issue about split cohorts and making transitions easier. I'm just wondering if what would be the risk to wait this out until the hold on PAR process is suspended, or the moratorium on school closures is lifted? If we were to hold off with making any changes, what would be the risk to the schools right now and the students?
I think the risk is that I don't have an answer as to how long it's going to be before this is reopened as a tool for us to use in order to deal with the accommodation issues that we have throughout the board. So what I will say is that as a department, we've held off on this one for quite some time. As you probably recall, like, I've hemmed and hawed about this with regards to the LTAPs that we've gone through in the past, and it's been a few years now that, you know, I've had colleagues of mine, trustees, community members knocking on my door saying, we've got to do something. And I think this is the point where we're like, okay, well, enough waiting. And, you know, Murphy's Law may dictate that by June 3rd, you will approve this and we will have a call for the moratorium to be lifted. But if that's not the case, you know, I would much prefer having a solution in place. And I think the way that we've developed the recommendation and the implementation of this by giving families the options to, you know, remain in place and legacy exempt, and mitigating the impacts of the board on that front, but also mitigating those same impacts to the community. I think we've made this in such a way that it's a palatable change to implement slowly. And that ideally, that as we trickle these changes in over time, eventually we'll be back in business of that additional layer of pupil or of accommodation strategies and going forward. So I would say there's more risk in not taking any action than there would be in taking action at this point in time. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate all the considerations that have gone into this process and decision making. Thank you.
Thank you. I will be wanting to make some comments about PAR after Trustee Horn speaks. Go ahead, Trustee Horn.
Thank you, through you. And so I did have a question that came from Mark's delegation. However, it was answered by the next delegation. And I think what it was what Mark was talking about with options 13, that was looking at moving students to Tom Thompson. And one of the initial pieces to this boundary review was to reduce the population at Tom Thompson. But again, with the second delegation over there. Again, so I think it's really important. I want to commend you, Fred, because I think the approach that you took to this, the openness that was there to the community, we watched the space shuttle take off together, didn't we? So it was, for me, just the whole manner that it was approached in really created that sense of trust and community. So I commend you, because I've been involved from a parent side as well as the trustee side in boundary reviews before. This, by far, for me, was one of the most pleasant experiences that I ever had. And I think that is down to your leadership. So I just want to commend you on that. But again, I think what the really important piece is that although we started off with this boundary review to look at how are we going to reduce the portables at Tom Thompson, that was the original intent to this. But through the conversations that we had with the community, with the senior team, with the trustees, we recognized that that was a problem that was overshadowed by the problems as well. And we were able to come to a place where everyone in the community, I think, felt heard. And we were able to come to a decision that I think has brought forward a great recommendation to the board. So I don't have a question because it was answered, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Trustee Horn. And now my comments about program or pupil accommodation reviews. I've heard them both used. when I spoke with the Provincial Ministry of Finance about their annual budget in January, my first ask from them was to please reopen the ability for school boards to do these types of reviews because of not just the social cost to our students and their families, but also to the very real financial cost to boards for keeping schools open that are underutilized. And I will continue to be asking for this in any way that I can. I do not intend to run for chair this fall, but I will also hope that whoever our chair is will continue to ask for it, because it has now been 9 years since the moratorium was put into place. 9 years is a long time to say no to school boards being able to advance and provide education where it's needed. And I know that the school boards that are under supervision are allowed to close schools. So why not give that permission back to all of us? And that's all I wanted to say about PARS. And you know that I value the work you've done, Fred. This is an amazing report, amazing work done, and very cool. Thanks. We are now up to section 6, communication to the board. And our first item is the long-term accommodation plan, projected projects for update with, guess who? General Manager Thibault. Thanks.
So I'm back. It's been a year. So we presented this last year, and unfortunately we got a little bit sidetracked with the feedback survey and everything else. So we're representing an updated list of priority projects that we're looking to incorporate as part of the long-term accommodation plan. I'm happy to report that, albeit we haven't necessarily approved the updated long-term accommodation plan, a draft version is available online with a number of tools available. So initially we had kind of the surface level and a few examples, but now you can start navigating. I will note that the data still needs to be updated, so we're just finalizing those updates as we're going through, and we're hoping to have a final product by the end of June. However, the priority project areas are essentially, I would say, near complete. We might have some additional projects added in, but for now, I think it's a pretty robust and complete list. So I encourage you to have a look at it. And if you have any comments, we do have some time before we're hoping the June 16th meeting to finalize everything. In terms of community consultation, I'll note in the timelines that we have noted that it would be going out this Thursday. We're going to take a little bit more time on that as we just refine a few more things. We just want to make sure when we go to the community for their feedback on the projects and the new template that we have more data updated, so there's a little bit less confusion in the overall piece. So that'll be going out on the 13th as opposed to May 7th. And again, just I'll note the June 16th, I believe, is a special board meeting, so we'll see if that one's in place. If not, this might just get kicked over to the fall months. But I do hope to come back on June 2nd, at least to let you know what the feedback was. So I encourage you to navigate the LTAP, have a look. Think of it as you, the end user, both as a trustee but also as a parent. And we're happy to take any feedback as we turn our giant paper brick into a digital space that we can display information more readily and make it easier for parents to access to the information they really want to know about, being the projects, how is their school performing on an enrollment side of things, et cetera, et cetera. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, General Manager Thibault, and I'm not seeing any questions. So I think this time you can actually, there's a hand. Okay. Trustee Baxter.
Thank you to the chair, through the chair. I'm trying to get faster at this, but I think I need a mouse. I just have a clarification question for you, Manager Thibault. So as you know, we've talked a lot about Abbey Lane, our Abbey Lane community, and it is at 55% utilization. And so the board is, as we know, looking at the Northwest Oakville boundary review, and the community is very much looking forward to participating in that. So I just wanted to clarify in the table, It says the proposed action column says to initiate study to review the school projections and determine accommodation needs and FI realignment pathway 1 in brackets. So I just wanted to confirm for any parents who might be watching the meeting tonight that the intention is to follow the pathway 1 process, which we know is a full consultation where parents in the community would have the opportunity to participate, be part of the boundary review committee and that kind of thing. Just wondered if you could sort of give a brief overview of that process and how parents would find out about that when the board's ready to proceed. Please, thank you.
Absolutely. Through you, Madam Chair, to Trustee Baxter. Essentially what we're going to do is we will be coming back probably in June 2nd, or maybe we'll push to 16th if we are having that meeting. But first and foremost, as I mentioned earlier, as part of the last approval, we do want to amend the motion for the Oakville Northwest boundary review process in order to incorporate 2 additional schools, namely Dr. David R. and Sunningdale, just in terms of the alignment of the FI program and the pressures that are happening at Forest Trail. So that's going to be one part of it. We'll amend it. Soon after that, when we make that amendment, we'll retake that opportunity to notify the community that we are reinitiating the boundary review, or we're going to be kickstarting the boundary review. And the intent is that after we've made the amendment, we notify the community and the schools that are impacted, not only the additional schools, but all the other schools. We're going to have a call for parent members. Start thinking about it over the summer, because we would like to get this started very early on next year come September, and hopefully have something implemented for September 2027, because we understand that they're looking for maybe an infusion of additional students, and we need to figure out how that navigates. So we've completed the review of other potential options that fall outside of the boundary review process to help the school's enrollment. We've concluded that they're not necessarily feasible options or necessarily the pathway that our new approach is going to be able to accommodate for long term. So we'll have to look at another strategy, which we hope to come to the Boundary Review Steering Committee that is established by trustees in sometime in June, present an option that we think will meet the intents. We're still kind of reviewing it and the pluses and the minuses of it. And then, like I said, kick this thing off in the new year. And we typically give notifications through School Messenger with regards to this. So hopefully that addresses your question.
Thank you very much for your report. There are no other speakers on the list. Going once, going twice, gone. You can finally leave the podium. Thank you. Moving on to 6.1.2, Multi-Year Strategic Plan Monitoring Report. Report 26033, Associate Director Petco and Director Ennis. Associate Director Petco, would you like to speak to this report?
Thank you. Through you, Chair Collard, to all trustees. You will see an update on the monitoring progress on the remaining 3 areas of learning engagement achievement, Indigenous rights and education, as well as environmental and global citizenship. Our next outcomes report will be coming to you in the fall. Happy to take any questions that you may have.
Trustee Zhang.
Thank you. Yeah, this report has a lot of details in our school operation, so that's great. And based on the report, I have 2 questions. The first one is about the challenges identified under the goal of learning. So in the learning, there's some challenges because the government funding shortage and lack of resources. Our teachers, we cannot do some teachers PD. So, but the teacher PD, we believe to improve the quality of education, we need those PDs. So if we have, because the government funding shortage, we cannot resolve all these issues in one day. So do we have any plan to conquer these issues, for example, and any alternate options for the teachers PD? Thank you.
Through the chair to Trustee Zhang, to be clear, you're asking as related only to the area of AI?
Not AI, because under the first goal in the learning, it mentioned because the government funding shortage, some like literature teachers there's a lack of the PD for teachers.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to refer over to Trustee or Superintendent Frankovich. Can you give some idea around the professional learning?
Can I get further clarity, Trustee Zhang, around specifically which areas for professional learning and what is it specifically around the differences you see in terms of our ability to deliver PD?
Okay, I believe some PD, for example, literature is a focus on the lower age and but for some others, it says some challenges already identified for the teachers' professional development. So I'm just wondering, if there's a challenge identified in the report, do we have any plan for that? Just under the first goal.
Yeah, thanks for the clarification, and through you, Chair, to Trustee Zhang. Some of the challenges, for example, I'll use today as an example. When we offer professional development, if educators cannot get a supply teacher in that day, it does limit their opportunity to fully participate in the professional development. While those are challenges, we've seen a drastic improvement in our fill rates throughout the system, but that would be the one that comes to mind.
Okay, this may not be for my question, so we can follow up with that question later. But for my second question is about in the later of the second part of the report, there's about the AI introduced in the school. And those AIs, for example, grade 4 can use the notebook KLM, and grade 7 are allowed to use the Gemini. And because I'm IT people, and I have been working in IT for more than 30 years, and I use AI at work. And so I know and a lot of parents, they are interested in AI because we gather those information from the multi-year strategic plan feedback, and also in last year's PIG conference, the workshops. A lot of parents attend the AI workshop. And so I know that, and this is the parents also like it. And but as an IT people, I need to say, because there are two sides, and so the AI is a very good tool to help students to learn, and also if it gives too much summary and for the students research, and so the students maybe just use the summary from the AI tool, not do the research by themselves. So I would like to say, because the AI for everyone is a new area, do we have a framework in place to do monitoring and evaluation of effectiveness and the risk control? If we don't have, maybe we can put that in an action item to include in the future reports to see how we can to evaluate the effectiveness of using AI. Thank you.
Thank you. Through the chair to Trustee Zhang. I'm going to thank you for the question, but I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Schoss behind me.
Thank you, through the chair. So we fully understand and appreciate the anxiety surrounding the use of AI in our schools and its rapid advancement across society more generally. Every day it seems like we hear more and more about the capabilities of AI as well as the risks that are associated with its adoption. So our emphasis has been placed since day one on how we need to balance the risks and opportunities and the innovation with the safeguards. We are shifting to a model starting with the new school year, actually starting with summer school, where we will only be Google Gemini and Notebook LM approved for use in our schools with our students. It's important to note Notebook LM is not true AI. It responds to what you feed it. It doesn't scrape the internet, and that's why you see a younger age group there for grade 4. It's important to recognize that Gemini is an integral element of our Google Workspace for Education license. That ensures the student data, the prompts, the responses, everything that you put into Gemini and our school board is not reviewed by Google. It doesn't go to Google. It's not transmitted to Google. It stays here. Google doesn't train its models on Gemini that is used in our school board. It also includes extra content filtering and filters against inappropriate material. And that's very different from what you know from the commercial consumer version of Gemini that's out in the wild. The details about how we've implemented AI in our schools are available for the public on our public website under Technology and You. And if you go to the website, you review Technology and You can see how our teachers are using AI in the board and all the work that school programs has done to implement responsible AI use. And that includes things like critical thinking and reviewing for bias, hallucinations, all that sort of thing, and particularly with a focus on critical thinking, right? I think we're really proud of how we've rolled out AI in our school board. It's been a shared responsibility across multiple departments, including school programs, equity, the Indigenous team, the environmental team, special education, and information services. And recently, we became one of the few school boards in the province that's authorized it for corporate use as well. So I think there is very much an eye to risks and safeguarding our students as we move forward into this era. I appreciate the question.
Okay, I just want to follow up. This is because I use it. At work, I use AI every day, and I can choose different.
I'm sorry, Trustee Zhang, your time is used up. If you want to go back on the list. Thank you. Trustee Bryden.
Thank you. Thank you for this comprehensive report. There are a handful of passages in here that jump out at me as particularly interesting. First, the statement, overall, we can see a direct improvement in the scores of grade 3 and 6 students who received school math facilitator and math learning resource teacher support, as confirmed by EQAO data. Just so that I can be sure I understand that correctly, what I'm hearing there is that the students in schools who received these interventions performed better than schools who did not in the change between those years. Is that correct?
Through the chair to Trustee Bryden, I'm going to ask Superintendent Frankovich to confirm that. Thank you.
Thanks for the question. Through the chair to Trustee Bryden. While the school math facilitators and our LRTs who support math support our classes, they're not targeted at individual students. It is class-wide support. And yes, in those schools, we have seen a difference when compared to our schools who are not supported by a school math facilitator. In grade 3, as a board overall, our results showed a 2% gain in math achievement. But when you look specifically at our priority schools, we saw an average gain of 10%. And similarly, in grade 6, we had across the board, we saw over a 3-year period from 2023 to 2025, our results decreased by 1%. However, in those priority schools that we supported with school math facilitators and the LRTs, we saw an average gain of 5%.
I think that drives home the importance of these supports. And the value, and those are provincially funded supports. Like this is our current government who invested in those interventions and allowed these successes to occur. And I would like to see more of that. Next passage, really encouraging data around improvements in the early reading screening process and changes year to year there. This is just the second year that we've rolled that out. I'm with the caveat that, yes, this measures something different than EQAO does. I am very curious to see what happens in a year's time in the grade 3 results and whether we're starting to see this drive change that we pick up at the way that reading is being measured on those EQAO assessments. And then finally, in the second topic being covered here, there's a really good passage Improving student outcomes can involve navigating multiple systems, e.g. justice, child welfare, housing, and healthcare for mental and or physical needs, in addition to the education system in order to support intersecting needs. This means that at times students present with needs outside of education that are more imminent and more immediate, but that impact student achievement. And this is what we all know. When you have bigger stuff going on at home, it's hard to learn at school. And I'm curious to hear a little bit about how we are able to assist outside of the classroom, and whether there are ways that we are already helping students to overcome some of those challenges that let them show up at school.
Thank you, through the chair, to Trustee Bryden. I'm wondering, Superintendent Frankovich, do you have any thoughts on that as well? Any further thoughts, just in terms of wraparound supports?
Just full support of what Trustee Bryden shared.
Trustee Bryden, do you require more details at this time?
I mean, there is a question there of like how are there ways in which we provide those kinds of supports or ability for students to overcome those barriers.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to see if over to the other side of the room, Superintendent Ruddick, do you want to comment perhaps?
Sorry, just for clarification, are you, Trustee Bryden, asking about the achievement results for students with special education needs in literacy or numeracy?
No. This is in the section regarding Truth and Reconciliation and Indigenous students.
Apologies. I'm going to throw it over to Superintendent Coakwell. Are you able to comment on some of those items? And if not, we can always take it away and then provide direct responses.
So just so I'm clear, we're talking about the resources that we have to provide students facing these challenges in our Indigenous population in our schools?
Yes, I mean, my curiosity extends beyond Indigenous students, but this is specifically in the context of supporting Indigenous students.
So in our Indigenous programming, we do provide individual support for students. We provide navigation support for families and participating in school meetings, supporting our guidance staff, and understanding the possible gifts that students bring and help re-engage them, and support students with reach outs, individual supports. We'll connect with band representatives for them to support them in their achievement. We'll also work with them around post-secondary opportunities, specific Indigenous post-secondary information, fairs, support for applications. We'll also, as you'll see, we've actually moved some of the indices overall in our report since a number of years ago with our student census data and narrowed these. So we know these supports are having some effect, not as much effect as we would like to see. We still have work to do, but we are moving those indicators, disproportionate indices, a little bit closer to the bandwidth with these supports.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Trustee Horn.
Thank you, through Chair. It's always so nice because Trustee Bryden really led into both areas of my question. So I'm going to start with the first commitment, which is the learning, engagement, and achievement. And I look at the key objectives. Number 2 is expand and promote diverse learning opportunities and educational pathways tailored to students' interests and aspirations. And number 3 is empower and amplify student voices in decision making. I look at the information that's here presented, and there's a really large focus on EQAO and standardized testing. So what I'm wondering with that is when we look at tailoring things to our student interests and aspirations, which rarely falls under EQAO, what sort of opportunities are we giving to our students to expand upon their interests and their aspirations, and how are we doing so alongside of EQAO? Because for me, I have a really hard time with, and I know we use EQAO for our SIPSs and our BIPSs and whatever IPSs we're doing, But I also recognize that education is beyond that, and we really need to try to move away from those be-all, end-all importance of EQAO and standardized testing. So how are we as a board doing that? And secondly, number 3 was empower and amplify student voice in decision-making. And I don't see anything in any of this addressing that point. So I'm just asking for clarification on those 2 pieces, and then I'm going to come back to the next commitment. Thank you.
Through the chair to Trustee Horn. Thank you for the question. Perhaps I'm going to start by saying our core business is student achievement engagement, right? And so standardized scores is often one of the most regularly used, one that we have relied on to give us a snapshot of how our students are doing. I do agree with you. I think all of us at Halton District School Board would agree with you that student voice is paramount to ensuring that the whole child and the whole student experiences success in every realm. And that is not just in the academic realm, but in athletic, artistic, ensuring that we really center and we spotlight all the talents and gifts that students have. So when you ask, how are we doing that? You think about how involved we are in terms of supporting Student Senate, how involved we are particularly, and it may not often be obvious because each individual superintendent and their families of schools, and then of course it drills down to each individual school, has their goals and their activities and actions that are implemented to demonstrate that we value the whole child's experience. And student voice is garnered through student focus groups, or of course Student Senate is represented through students that are in each of our individual schools. We have student trustee voices, obviously. Those are some formal ways in which we garner student voice, but there certainly are many informal ways. I mean, if you look at all the clubs, all the affinity groups that we support through student advisors and through superintendents, whether it's through resources and funding. Again, we talk about all the amazing things that are happening in the board with competitions, intramural, interschool, both academically and athletically, in terms of skills that we highlight. It's happening. But I'm hearing your feedback that you don't see it in the report, Trustee Horn, and therefore that feedback will be taken and will be incorporated as best we can in the next report. I hope that answers your question.
Well, it does. I just think, thank you. For the key objectives, I look at those pieces, and there is such, and I know it's so hard to get away from EQAO. But I think, as you've highlighted there are so many other things that make Halton schools great, Halton children great. We need to have that focus too, and I think it needs to be in here for that we are able to see that schools are about more than standardized testing. So thank you for that. Okay, next one. So when we look at the Indigenous rights in education, again, key objective 2 and 3, amplify and enhance the presence of Indigenous voices and address systemic barriers to support student success and achievement of Indigenous students. So I'm just questioning this. So I know there has been several conversations that we've had at the board around the Indigenous Educational Advisory Committee and concerns around safety and concerns around sharing of information. I've also had phone calls and concerns from community members about access to information. Now, I know in conversations I've had with Superintendent Coquell is that I've been told that you're in line with ministry guidance as to how we are conducting our groups. However, I'm wondering, as a board, when we are looking at what we are doing in line with the ministry guidance, I feel, or I think as a board, we should feel that we should always be going above and beyond to try to do the best that we can do for our communities. So if there is a question of safety, as there has been here at the board meetings, I feel it's our responsibility to mitigate that. So what are we doing to mitigate safety concerns and being able to share more broadly the information that I feel community members, both Indigenous and beyond, deserve around the content, the times, and the information gathered at our Indigenous Advisory Committee?
Through the chair to Trustee Horn, I want to start by saying the Halton District School Board, Indigenous Education Council, is what we have as an IEC, absolutely does align with the Ontario Ministry of Education's guidelines, which outline how IECs may operate and are to be responsive to their needs and also self-determined processes. Having said that, I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Coquell, or actually I'm going to start with Director Ennis first.
Yeah, if I could just say a few words. I would just like to begin with a sense of gratitude to our Indigenous Education Council and for the work that they do to support our students in alignment with our staff. And the parameters under which the IEC currently operates, as has been stated, is one that aligns and is in compliance with what the ministry's asked us to do. It very much aligns with what happens in different parts of the province. Some boards do things differently, others do things the same. There is no one way of doing the councils across the province. And so, our particular council operates under a sort of a Chatham House rules, which Chatham House rules? Yeah, which speaks to identifying issues and not individuals for privacy and without the expressed, intentional, prior knowledge and prior consent. They do not give their identities out for issues of privacy and confidentiality. So that is something that we've respected and will continue to do so. And I know that might prove a challenge, but the information certainly is one that we can share. I don't know if Superintendent Coquell want to add more to that.
Thank you, Director Ennis, through the chair. As been stated, the current HDSB IEC is in compliance with all ministry expectations. The meetings are not held publicly. As with other HDSB committees that involve community members and volunteers in vulnerable populations, that is one of the ways we protect them. We have a responsibility to keep our volunteers safe. These are volunteers from our community, and we respect the request for privacy. The dates, times, and locations of IEC meetings are shared with the IEC members, the Indigenous Rights and Education Department, the lead, the assistant principal, myself, and HDSB staff who have requested to be on the agenda with an item related to the initiatives included in our board action plan for Indigenous education. And they would come to that particular meeting, and they would be that would be acknowledged through the lead. This is how the information is also shared through our reporting to you, as you see tonight. It's shared through ministry reports, as well as our ongoing communication with our ministry liaison officer, as currently as yesterday. So I can assure the trustees and members of the team that this information is shared and it is shared transparently and such. So thank you.
I'm sorry, you've gone over your allotted time.
I have 35 seconds.
No, you have gone over by 35 seconds.
Okay, I'll go back on the list then, please.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Rocha.
Through you, Chair. So I too have a concern with how the board is handling any information about the IEC. I've heard many times we're following ministry requirements. Fantastic. But there are some basic information that the trustees have asked for and that the community has asked for. and that Indigenous communities have asked for, and that is who's on this committee, who sits on this committee. And we're not asking for names, but what's the makeup of the committee? Like, which nations are represented? How are people brought onto this committee? And why isn't any of that information public or readily available to the Indigenous community? It's like we're purposely trying to hide information. And as we can see from tonight, we're getting blockaded. We're following ministry regulations, and that should be enough. But it isn't enough. It's not enough for the board, because if we are relying on them for consultation, for advice, then we should be able to understand the makeup of that committee. Are there parents? Are there principals? Are there superintendent? Which nations are on there? How did they get on there? How long can they sit on this committee? I personally have asked for years for the terms of reference. I still don't have the terms of reference. I keep getting told, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. It hasn't come, and it's been multiple years. So to me, I think we're not being transparent with the school board. We're not being transparent with the Indigenous community. And up on the wall is our commitment to Indigenous rights and education. And personally, I feel that we are taking rights away from the Indigenous community, and that isn't fair to them. So I would kindly request again for the terms of reference and for you to be able to share who exactly is advising us. I do see the IEC being listed in this report, but I have no clue who the IEC is. So it would be nice to put some thought behind where this information is coming from. And it would also be nice for essential for the Indigenous members of our community to be able to reach out to this council. Anyway, my question, so that's a lot of questions. I don't expect an answer to that because I know I'm not getting any, but if you feel free, if you want to make me happy, please respond. But my other question,
your time, Trustee Rocha.
Is it time? I'll go back on the list.
Okay, I'm going to have to ask you to go back on the list. I am hearing a theme though here, and I just want to make sure that I have full understanding, because I feel like I'm not fully understanding what's being requested here. With our committees that we have, any committees, like let's say the Human Rights Committee, do we publish the terms of reference for that one, or the list of who's on it, or how do people get on it? How are we treating this committee differently from other committees which have community members and that represent vulnerable communities?
We are, because the human rights is not published either. We've never asked for that here in this forum, to my knowledge, and we seem to have focused on the Indigenous Council, and so there are other committees of the board that operate under a very similar mandate.
Okay, that was what I thought, but I just wanted to make sure. Trustee Baxter.
Thank you. Through the chair, I have two questions, one about literacy and one about math. So I'll just ask them both and we can go from there. So in terms of literacy, if I understand it correctly, all students now have access to assistive technology when they're taking EQAO, whereas I believe in the past it had to be provided individually to students with IEPs. So students can choose to have content read to them, or I believe they may also have access to transcription, but correct me if I'm wrong. So I was asked at the January OPSPA conference whether our board receives information from EQAO and whether trustees also receive this information on student use of those tools. And I'm just wondering, is that something that EQAO reports to the board with scores? Do you want me to stop there? And then, okay.
Thank you. Through the chair to Trustee Baxter, or I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Frankovich, who may have an answer.
Yeah, thanks through the chair to Trustee Baxter. Not certain in terms of the reporting, what the ask is there, but I can tell you that in the EQAO reading section, students do have the choice to decode the entire text or listen to it read aloud using the text-to-speech function. So that is available to all our students.
So the question I was asking, I guess the reasoning is that if a student is reading text, that is reading it. If they're listening to it and then answering questions, that's more a comprehension, a measure of comprehension, right? So could this potentially be an indicator if a student had to rely on the software to read the question to them? Does it indicate some challenges with reading that perhaps aren't seen just in the score itself? So this apparently has come up in the right to read sort of community, and that's why I was asked. So that's not something the EQAO provides to the board, or could it be if requested?
Thank you through the chair to Trustee Baxter. Is that something, if I throw it over to Superintendent Ruddock, that you can help us with?
Yeah, thanks for raising this question, Trustee Baxter. Certainly within the disability community, there are conversations and concerns around the over-reliance on assistive technology and students therefore not learning to read through other strategies. I would say that this flexibility in the EQAO test really allows students to access their learning style that's most appropriate to them, and not solely an accommodation for students with perhaps a disability in reading. But we have a Tier 3 reading intervention that really responds to a manner in which we teach students to read who have learning barriers or a disability. So we appreciate that we don't want to be overly reliant on assistive technology, that we still want to teach a skill.
So just for context, I think the concern is not, on an individual student level. It's the provincial outlook and how literacy is being measured primarily through EQAO in terms of a provincial picture. So the concern, as I understood it, was just around accuracy and whether or not the scores or the performance province-wide is reflecting a reliance on that technology, as opposed to individual. Obviously, students should have access to what they need in order to do the work they need to do. So just some context. And then math, just to shift, I think I have a few seconds. Is there a math achievement plan developed yet based on what we've seen? And will that go to school councils for consultation before the end of this school year?
Thank you through the chair to Trustee Baxter. Thank you. I'm going to throw it over to Superintendent Frankovich.
Sure. While we have a board math achievement action plan at the school level, that could look a little different in terms of what is shared with school councils around principals' reports, especially when they look at learning engagement and achievement updates for the school community. But also, Trustee Baxter, happy to take that offline as well if you have any questions about our board math achievement action plan.
I think it might have been last year that we had a presentation and a report from you, Superintendent Frankovich, which was excellent, where we learned about the ministry funding and the identification of priority schools. It was really, really good. So if there could be an update to that, if that fits into the reporting plan, that would be fantastic. And in terms of the school councils, I know that's something that the regulation requires, is that consultation is done with school councils based on EQAO results. So seeing that our literacy is looking fantastic and math continues to be a challenge province-wide, I'm just wondering if that's something that councils will have the opportunity to have input on this school year. Thank you.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure we were clear. Student Trustee Ho.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I had two questions on the environmental commitment and also Indigenous rights. I'll ask them one at a time. So on the topic of environmental and global citizenship, I do really agree that AI is vital in our society and preparing students for future careers. However, I think it was also discussed when we created the commitments that it was crucial to not only focus separately on the environment and then also focus on AI and global citizenship, but to also do work on addressing the intersection between the two. And I think many students are aware that AI has very significant impacts on the environment. And on this, in the report, I'm seeing that there are some award-winning individual student innovations that are being used to demonstrate technological stewardship. But my question is, are there any programming being developed that would be presented by the board that supports addressing the environmental implications of AI for all students in the classroom, not just based on individual science projects? And if not, do you see this being something that can be considered as a future key objective?
Thank you for the question. Through the chair to Trustee Ho, I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Flathead. Are you able to provide a response?
If I may ask, through the chair, if I may ask for just a clarification about what exactly the question is I was trying to make out. If you could please just repeat that question so I could provide you with some clarity.
Yeah, through the chair. I see that in the report for measuring technological stewardship and the intersection of AI and sustainability, they mainly focus on individual student projects instead of classroom learning or any conferences or classroom kind of initiatives. So I was wondering if there exists anything like that, and if not, if that's something that you might consider for the future.
Well, I think around the classroom learning, as evidenced by a lot of what's happening through the training or through the various departments, through program department, through Superintendent Shaw's office, where we pull teachers out to get support around AI. Part of the environmental and global citizenship, we have responsible use of technology. And so part of that work through conferences, through various activities, through the learning engagement, we have been able to try to find ways for students to connect the responsibility of AI in terms of finding ways to use the innovation and become creative. We're coming up with inventions and various ideas that pushes that creativity in order to find solutions to solve the problems of the future. Hence, you'll see a lot of the students that have taken on so many projects throughout the board where they have connected their projects. Rather than having random initiatives, they actually found ways to align that with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and they find ways to connect those innovations and the science experiments and various other things that they've been doing in the classrooms because of the movement that we have in our system right now. And so some of that is evidenced through the success of every single school in our system now becoming an eco school, where they've stepped up to say that we want to do this work in our schools, and that's evidenced throughout the work in their classrooms. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you. And on to my second question on Indigenous rights and education. I also second, firstly, the concerns raised by Trustee Rocha and others regarding transparency. But I had a bit of a different question. I was wondering how the MBE 3U course factors into the measurements of success for this commitment, specifically on the key objective of advancing student and staff education in terms of reconciliation, since I think reconciliation extends also to Indigenous allyship and education for non-Indigenous students, which makes up the majority of our board, and how the school community generally understands Indigenous rights. So just on that, because I remember that course being very instrumental in how a lot of the students at my school at least understand Indigenous rights.
Thank you. Through the chair to Trustee Ho. May I? I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Connor.
Yeah,
through the chair. Firstly, just thank you very much for recognizing the robust learning and the wonderful opportunity our students have through the NBA course. That course was richly developed in partnership with our Indigenous department and staff that have tremendous expertise and skill in building our capacity within our school communities and amongst our teaching staff to make sure it was reaching the goals exactly as you've identified, that it builds and extends student knowledge, awareness, and understanding around Indigenous ways of knowing and being and understanding. So I do appreciate your firsthand experience and what that is and what that course looks like in our system, and the intentionality for all students to engage in that learning through their grade 11 English credit. And it absolutely has been done, and the rollout was over some years because we wanted to do it very well and wisely to ensure that cross-system that would be available for all of our students in each of our schools. So that was the intent, and I'm pleased to hear that it was a positive experience for not only yourself but other students at the school.
Thank you very much, Student Trustee Ho. We'll now move on to our second-time speakers, Trustee Zhang.
Okay, thank you. This is not a question, just my comments about the using AI in the school. So we can compare the using AI at school and what AI brings to me and as a IT field. So before we code like very complex logic, and we think in depth about to resolve the problems. But now we just enter what is the condition, and the AI actually generated that for us. And so it brings us a lot of convenience. But for students, actually, they do need to do more practice, and because they are learning that they don't have experience. Everything is new for them. So I highly recommend we having a monitoring and evaluation framework ready in place, and we can see what is the result, and maybe every 6 months we do an assessment, and then we can just, if there's any negative sides, then we can just have a solution to resolve that. Because for me, AI actually helped me to explain a lot. We can learn a lot of new skills from AI, but for like the very deep thinking, like complex modeling and logic. Actually, the AI do that for us, and we no longer need to do coding very complex logic. But for students, I really like they still have the chance, opportunity to learn that and think in depth. So that's my comments. And so the action item will be, I highly recommend, is having a monitoring and evaluation framework in place. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that addition, Trustee Zhang. Moving to Trustee Horn.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, to you, Chair. So I first want to address what I will say the perceived slap on the wrist. If I had concerns from the Human Rights Committee, I would be asking the same questions. So I have not had concerns from the Human Rights Committee, but I have had concerns around the Indigenous rights or Indigenous, and I'm sorry for getting it wrong, the IEC. So I've got two questions following on. If a member of the community wants to be involved or be on the IEC, how are they able to do so? And who makes the decision as to whether or not they can be on that committee?
So the answer to that question is I can answer a number of questions that you asked earlier, Trustee Rocha, so I'll take this opportunity to do that right now. Who's on the committee? Staff are on the committee. We have parents on the committee. We have members of the First Nation, Métis and Inuit on the committee. How you get on the committee, you can, through our Indigenous Education Department, we send out to all of our self-identified Indigenous families, open call to everyone who identifies with us that they're Indigenous, and that's how you get on. You just submit your name to, you submit your name. So everyone who identifies that we are aware of receives information from us that there is a process open to get onto this council. So that's, and then a determination is made, and the determination fulfills the First Nation, Métis, and Inuit. We try to broad scope, make sure that we're representative of all of those groups. And so that's the current composition of the group.
So thank you, Director Ennis. You answered the first two parts of my question, but you didn't answer who made the decision as to whether or not you are on the committee. So you said there's an open call, which is great and fantastic. Anyone who self-identifies as Indigenous is given I'm just repeating, is given an opportunity to have access and be involved with the IEC.
Correct.
So let's say I am or even as an ally. As an ally, would I have the opportunity to be on the committee?
I think it's at the moment, and as I understand it, it is those who identify as First Nation, Métis, or Inuit.
Okay, so then there are more than, so I'm quite certain that this committee is not large. Is there a number associated with the committee? And who makes the decision? So let's say I applied. Who makes a decision whether or not I can be on the committee?
Superintendent Coquille, can you answer that question, please?
So one of the fundamental pieces around the IEC is that the commitment to uphold Indigenous rights, such as the right to self-determination, and to have the opportunity to express free, prior, informed consent around that. So what I mean by that is the committee itself, with the current members, puts a call out. They then look to ensure there's broad representation from the categories that have already been shared, First Nation, Métis, and Inuit, to ensure we have broad representation. They then add people appropriately through that call-out process. Okay. We also have to remember that a large portion of our Indigenous education team currently also, who are staff, identify as HDSB, Halton residents who are Indigenous themselves, that are staff. And so there is a broad scope of people on this committee, that is reviewed, and then they have a process annually to add when people leave and to replenish to ensure there's broad representation. But they determine that.
Okay, thank you. I'm not still sure who the they is, but I'm just going to move on to my next question, which is if there is a member who is self-identified within the community, and I've had this question asked of me again this evening from a fellow trustee, how do they know who to contact if they aren't aware of the people on the committee?
The people on the committee, as I mentioned earlier, are not identified. If you want to know the people.
No, so what I'm asking is if we have a student or a family of a student who is self-identified within the community and is looking for support or is looking to have advocacy at the board, how do they know who to speak to?
Oh, that's easy. We have our staff members in our Indigenous department, whether it's our lead principal of Indigenous rights and education. Everybody knows who she is in the board. Just give them that name, and they'll be put in touch with the right people.
So again, just quick, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to belabor this, but I think about the hierarchy of power that we have, that is in the board, that is within different systems. And there are sometimes people that don't feel comfortable speaking to a staff member or to somebody who is a colonialized leader within our system. So if they are looking for a community member who is on the IEC to speak to have them bring their voice to the table, how do they find those people?
At the moment, the members of the committee have chosen not to be identified. And so that is a challenge that you can't solve in this moment, because the members of the committee do not, for reasons that I've stated earlier, want to be identified. So if there is a concern, we have enough staff member at every level of the organization that can hear students or community members' concern and bring them forward.
Thank you for your answers.
Final speaker at this point, Trustee Rocha.
First, I want to acknowledge, we've been talking about Indigenous rights and education so much this evening. So I do just want to recognize that it is May 5th. It is Red Dress Day. And many of us are wearing red to honor the thousands of missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people of Canada. So I want to put that forth. I want to switch to a more positive thing. So in the report, again, on the Indigenous rights and education, there were 2 tables presented with information and numbers moving in the direct direction. So I'm very happy to see that our commitment for the last 2, well, for this multi-year plan and the previous one, where we did focus on Indigenous rights and education, that we are seeing results. So I'm very grateful for that. And ideally, we can get the needle moving even further along. My question originally was, in the report, we talk about ongoing consultation with community partners. Can you advise, can you share with us who these community partners are outside of the IEC?
Through the chair to Trustee Rocha. Superintendent Coakwell, are you ready for that?
Yes, thank you. Through the chair. We consult with a broad group, over 50 experts. I'm just looking for my note here on this, so I apologize. Over 50 individuals and a wide number of organizations have been consulted. I can get back to you, Trustee Rocha, directly with a little more direct answer on that around the group. But I can assure you there has been too many to list in a meeting like this, but a broad scope has been consulted. I know in the report that we shared, we did outline some of the key areas, and there is a list that we could get and share with you, okay, privately.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you. And I think everyone in the room can sense my frustration with the lack of transparency with all things IEC. And I'll tell you right now where my frustration stems from. And it goes back to a report from a few years back with the renaming of Iroquois Ridge and the lack of consultation with the right nations. And so to me, ever since that report that came out and the frustration that I got from my community, because I am the trustee for Iroquois Ridge, I listened to many people, and it goes back to who is the board consulting? Why aren't they being more transparent and forthcoming with that information? So my frustration that you've heard tonight stems from that. And it was blatant to me that our process is broken. And I think over the last few years where I keep asking for information is because I want the board to be transparent with the community and those that are most impacted. And when we get a report on Indigenous rights and education and how we've been doing, it's sad that the IEC has taken over that conversation when there are so many good nuggets of information in this report. So I think my messaging here is, if we can do better about transparency, let's do better, because the community is looking. And also just thank you for sharing the good news that is the good work that is being done with the Indigenous community. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Rocha. Moving to our final no, maybe not. Hopefully our final speaker, Trustee Oliver.
Thank you. First, I just wanted to use a point of privilege or whatever it might be. Just in hearing some of the questions raised by my fellow trustees, because, they are left hanging out there in space. I think it's important that when trustees use the term trustees asked for, that's qualified. It is not 100% trustees asked for. It may be a few. And And I think it's important to qualify one's opinions as I feel, or I think, rather than trustees or the board, because I do not believe we want to be characterizing the Board of Trustees or HDSBs as negatively engaging in anything. And so I just wanted to put that on record. And now I'd like to bring my own questions and comments. So back to this report. Thank you very much for this wonderful MYSP update. It's great to see that we're seeing continuous improvement in both literacy and numeracy, and closing some education gaps slowly as well. Evidently, the implementation of evidence-based resources, along with focus on PD for staff to strengthen their instructional practice, are having desired outcomes. And here I just would like to comment, and this builds on Trustee Bryden's comment about the importance of extra supports and resources, that as I recognize the correlation between staff PD and improvements in student outcomes, I am concerned that PD may not be offered as frequently or to all those who need it or offered in person. And this, of course, is because this is concerning because it's the resources and supports that drive improvements in student achievement. And these supports are directly dependent on adequate funding. I am curious, as we consider the gains that we are noting in student achievement at HDSB, whether there are provincial ministry-hosted opportunities where school boards can share their practices and share the results that they are able to gain with various instructional tools, so that school boards can learn from each other and perhaps help to refine some of the practices.
Through the chair to Trustee Oliver, Vice Chair Oliver, thank you so much for your comments. We will absolutely take your suggestions into account, and when we move forward, we will absolutely do that. I don't know if at this point I can respond with anything else at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now moving to, I hope, our final speaker, Trustee Baxter.
Thank you. Through the chair, I just wanted to start by thanking trustees for bringing the voice of community to the table. There's been an awful lot of discussion in the last little while about why we're here and whether we should be here. Thank you, Minister Calandra. And, you know, one of the big roles that we have is to bring the voices of families, students, community to this table, because we have the ability to do that. And so when trustees do that, I always appreciate it. We certainly do have members of our community who don't feel comfortable, you know, within the education system for various reasons, historical and current, which I think makes it even more important that, you know, we use our voices to speak up when we can. I just wanted to also acknowledge in the report that there is mention of the work that the Indigenous Education Department does. As a newer trustee, we had a presentation, I think it was last year, maybe, from the staff, which was fantastic, a PD session. And I learned how much work they do. I mean, if you say Indigenous Education Department, it could mean, well, education of all students around Indigenous history and realities and that kind of thing. It can also mean education for Indigenous students. And the reality is that our department does both. And I think we saw a lot of the staff in this room, and they're not a big group. And they do a lot of work, and they do a lot of work to support families and students that I think is not always obvious and acknowledged. So thank you for including that in the report. I think it's important that we emphasize the work that that department does and make sure that it stays adequately funded. So please let us know if that's advocacy that needs to be done to the ministry. And then to in the report itself, there's a reference, to the HDSB Indigenous Education Board Action Plan. And I'm just wondering, extending the conversation around transparency and questions that community have, is it possible for that plan to be on the website so that community members are able to see that? And then the second question was kind of prompted by, this idea. I do sit on the Human Rights and Equity Advisory Committee as well. And I do understand that there are members of committees who are incredibly important and their views are important, but they don't necessarily feel comfortable having their names on a website where everyone knows. if there is a potential member of the IEC who would feel comfortable being identified and being the non-staff member of that committee, that community could come to, that might be, a different venue in which to share their concerns and questions, would it be possible for the committee to consider perhaps putting someone like that on the committee, if there's a member of our community in Halton who would be willing to be that person? Thank you.
Through the chair to Trustee Baxter, thank you so much for your positive comment and acknowledgement of our Indigenous Rights and Education team. That is really appreciated. And to your suggestions, we will certainly take those suggestions back and we will discuss it with both the staff and the IEC and see if that's a possibility. Okay.
Okay, so I have to say there was a lot of really good conversation here, a lot of important questions asked and answered, and perhaps not given the answers that people were looking for. I think there's a struggle here between honoring the privacy of certain individuals and in providing the information that the community is seeking. And we obviously haven't found the right sweet spot on that. We haven't found the right balance on that, perhaps. And that makes it very difficult for trustees around the table when they're trying to ask the questions on behalf of community. It also makes it very difficult for staff in trying to answer questions without revealing identities of specific groups or people. It's sometimes a bit like walking on a very, very thin tightrope, knowing that you could fall either way. And we don't want that to happen. We don't want harm to anyone in our community, whether it's a member of the IAC or a member of the community that's seeking information, or a person in the community that's desperately trying to reach out to someone that's on the IAC because they don't want to speak with staff. I've heard all of what was said this evening, and I would agree that there's a barrier that is unintentionally there. That is how I'm seeing it. I don't think it's an intentional barrier, but I believe it's an unintentional barrier. That doesn't mean that it's not there. And I know that working together, we can get to a better place, and hopefully these questions won't be having to come forward the next time we do a monitoring of this multi-year strategic plan. So I'd like us to move on in our agenda, but first I think we all need a break. So let's take 5 minutes and come back at 8:31. It was good to get up and stretch our legs for a minute. Next on our agenda is the budget update from Superintendent Nogoy, which is a verbal update, and I know we still haven't received the numbers from the government, so go ahead and tell us what we've got, Superintendent Nogoy.
Thank you for the chair, and that's exactly my update. We haven't received the funding yet, so we just have to monitor the dates because we might need to change when we have the draft budget presentation. Currently, we were expecting to be presenting that on May 25th. We may not have it in time to honor that date, so we might have to bring it at the June 2nd board meeting. If it's even later, we will have to also consider some special board meetings in June. Special Education Advisory Committee, the presentation, a draft presentation was originally scheduled for May 19th. We are pushing it to the June 10th meeting. So that's all I know for now, while we are still waiting to hear on the funding release. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to assume there are no questions for that update without an update. Is there? Oh, we do. Trustee Horn.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, to Superintendent Nogoy. So a question. So when, and I'd like to turn around, but then I don't use my microphone. Last year, we were extremely late with receiving budgetary information. We were late. They were late giving us information. And when is it that they have given it, not a deadline, but when are they expecting to supply us with the information we need to make our decisions?
When are they?
Do we have a date?
The regulation, the regular dates for the board approving the budget is the end of June. So I don't think there's a date for the ministry to release the funding. In a year when they released it really late, I believe in June, they did extend the June 30th timeline. So that's what would happen if that would be the case. So I don't have an answer in terms of when they are expected, the ministry is expected to release the funding. Typically, it follows the provincial budget, which is at the end of March. And we would typically see sometimes in April, and that's what we were hoping and expecting, that sometimes in April they would release the details for the core education funding and the board-by-board projection. We're still waiting, and we don't have any information on when it may come.
Yeah, thank you. So my concern, and it's not a concern for us so much so as for asking the government. So with the notion or idea that we are thinking we are going to be having less money to be more creative with, I think it's important that the more time we have, the more able we are to create a budget that is compliant. So again, this isn't necessarily for us, but it's just to say, I'm hoping that the government is cognizant of the fact that with these new strains on budgets, the faster they give us the information, the more able we will be to work creatively. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that ends our speakers list. I keep looking over because I'm expecting 10 people to add their names on, but it's not happening. So now we will move on to the director's report. Thank you very much, Superintendent Nogoy.
Thank you, Chair Collard, and good evening, everyone. The director's report for today, today's National Day of Awareness for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women, Girls, and Two-Spirit People. The HDSB recognized the National Day of Awareness for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women, Girls, and Two-Spirit People. The final report on the national inquiry into this delivered 231 individual calls for justice. As outlined in Section 11.1, education and awareness must include historical and current truths about the genocide against Indigenous peoples through state laws, policies, and colonial practices. Together we reaffirm our commitment to learn about the truths and address the impacts of violence on Indigenous peoples, missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people. And as you heard earlier in our monitoring report, we're doing right by our Indigenous students here in the HDSB, and we're very proud of that work. We're thankful for our staff and for the great work that they're doing. And I want to apologize to any Indigenous families for any harm that was caused to you tonight. The Directors Panel Series, Developing Environmental and Global Citizenship, families, students, staff, and community members were invited to attend the Directors Panel Series on Monday, April 27th. And we're looking to incorporate the United Nations Development Sustainable Goals. We had a robust discussion with lots of students, and it was a fantastic time. The 34th Halton Skills Competition took place. We had over 1,200 elementary and secondary students from across the region showcase their dynamic talents right here in Halton. The third annual HDSB Rock Band Festival took place at Milton District High School on April the 8th and brought together over 31 bands from elementary and secondary school. It was a wonderful time of celebration. The Bay Area Science and Engineering Fair Awards was another great year of recognition for the HDSB at the Bay Area Science and Engineering Fair, with 160 projects submitted by students. 85 HDSB projects were honored with awards and recognition that resulted in more than $16,000 in cash prizes. We had lots of our projects, 2 projects in particular, advance into the International Science and Engineering Fair, and 10 projects advance into the Canada-wide fair. HDSB wins top honors at the inaugural Ag Robotics Student Challenge, where we had students from Abbey Park and Milton District took home first place, and Abbey Park receiving second place, and say congratulations to those students. I want to also update and just say a big thank you to everyone who supported me during the Easter Seals Dancing with the Stars. Easter Seals raised a total of over $135,000, and it's helping students go to summer camp, students with disabilities. And just wanted to update the public on our staff announcement. Superintendent Dean Barnes, after more than 32 years of dedicated public education and 25 years with the Halton District School Board, Dr. Dean Barnes has announced his retirement at the end of this school year. Dean joined the HDSB in 2001, and after serving as VP of several schools and principal at T.A. Blakelock in 2012, he became HDSB's first assistant principal at the Welcome Center and International Student Program before becoming Superintendent of Education in 2021. As Superintendent, Dean oversees a family of schools in North Milton while leading the HDSB's work in student well-being and mental health. His leadership has had a measurable impact in advancing the board's commitment to mental health and well-being and as a part of the multi-year strategic plan. Known for his thoughtful and relationship-focused leadership, Dean brings a calm, analytical approach to complex challenges. He is a principled leader, deeply invested in the success and well-being of his colleagues and students. We extend our sincere appreciation to Dean for the years of service, leadership, and dedication to students, staff, and families across Halton. While his departure will be felt deeply, the system structures and relationships he helped build will continue to support the HDSB. Please join me in congratulating Dean. Thank you, Dean, so much. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Director Ennis. Now on to 6.3, communications from the chair. And my report regarding the last month is a little bit longer than some of them because the last month was very busy for trustees. We continued our work on the 2 ongoing boundary review committees, one of which was concluded this evening. The Financial Advocacy Standing Committee hosted an online session for school council chairs, treasurers, and PIC representatives to share information about school board funding, our board's concerns with the province's current funding formula, and the impact that it has on our programs and services. The session was very well managed, and we look forward to future opportunities to engage with others on this topic. The Several trustees also attended the annual Ontario Public School Board Association's Labor Relations and Human Resources Symposium in Toronto, where we heard from legal experts on matters affecting public education. This past weekend was the grand opening of the Robert Bateman Community Centre here in Burlington. It's hard to believe that it's been 9 long years since the decision was made to close Robert Bateman High School. As most of you will already know, I opposed this closure. Once the decision was made, I began looking for opportunities to ensure public education continued to have a presence at that site. And I'm very pleased to see the Burlington site for Gary Allen moving to the newly renovated former high school. And I'm excited about the possibilities of all the new partnerships that have been brought to the area. On another note, the Minister of Education has brought forward Bill 101, which proposes changes to the government's leadership and operations of school boards. There are a lot of questions that remain unanswered about this legislation, and I am hopeful that the provincial committee that's currently assembled will be able to improve upon what's currently being presented to the legislature. Our next item is 6.4, committee updates, and for our statutory committees, Parent Involvement Committee, Trustee Rocha.
Thank you. Update. The PIC has a subcommittee who is currently working on their terms of reference, actually their bylaw. And the next PIC committee will be on Thursday, May 21st. It'll be the last one of the school year. And of course, it will be available to the public for viewing. And that is all.
Thank you. And the Special Education Advisory Committee, Trustees Baxter and Wovenhorst.
Thank you. We had our meeting Wednesday, April 15th. We had a couple of great presentations. We had a presentation from the Halton Student Transportation Services, and they spoke about, the lengths they go to get our children to school. There were a lot of great comments from the parents in terms of how the drivers make the kids feel safe and really go the extra mile. So that was a good presentation for our group. We also heard from the Community Pathways classroom, and we had a preview of their handbook. So there were also some good questions of that team as well. And we talked about the process for appointing a new SEAC whose term will start in the fall and go until 2030. Our next meeting is in person, which is exciting. May 20th. We're having dinner here.
Very nice. Moving on to our staff-led committees, the Accessibility Committee, back to Trustee Wovenhorst.
Thank you. We haven't had a meeting since our last meeting, but we do have a meeting scheduled for May 28th.
Perfect. Thank you. The Environmental Leadership and Sustainability Committee, Trustee Gray.
Thank you very much. Wanted to thank the directors panel that was on recently with a Developing Environmental and Global Citizenship presentation. That was well received by the community. On the 17th of April, the Environmental Leadership Learning Center opened, which brings students, staff, and community partners to explain or expand and explore real-world environmental challenges through hands-on collaborative experiences. And at that grand opening was Trustees Collard and Xing Yi, and it was one of the things I took, also being there in present, was in the room was a great display of all of the partners that we have in the Halton District School Board that help us with this particular initiative. And that's partners such as Green Learning, Plantwell, Oakville Green, Halton Region, Learning for a Sustainable Future, Burlington Green, GFL, Let's Talk Science, Outdoor Learning Schools, Eco Schools, Hungry Hollow, SNAP, and so on and so forth. So it's a real eye-opener to see just how well we are being supported and impacting the community around us. I also wanted to make note of tonight's board report, where we had quite a fulsome information session on the recent developments in this one commitment of our multi-year plan. And finally today, also all trustees would have received an email from Rochelle Irwin, which is the May 2026 newsletter full of wonderful information about the commitments being made here in the board with regards to environmental and global citizenship. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And moving on to Human Rights Equity Advisory Committee, Trustees Baxter and Zhang.
We've not had a meeting since the last board meeting. The next one will be next Tuesday, actually, 1 week today.
Thank you. And last but not least, the Mental Health Strategy Advisory Committee, Vice Chair Oliver.
Unfortunately, I was unable to attend that most recent meeting due to a family emergency. However, I would like to share with you all that share with you all and our HDSB families that there are 4 mental health information sessions planned for this month, covering a range of topics. All sessions are scheduled from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. And so on May 7th, there is Talking with Black Multiracial Children about Well-Being and Identity. On May 20th, Supporting Families and Loved Ones Using Substances, and that's hosted by Halton Adapt. On May 21st, Caring for Grieving Children and Youth, hosted by Lighthouse and Acclaim Health. And on May 25th, Talking to Your Child about mental health, noticing mental health concerns and how to help. And so I invite all of our families to attend these information sessions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have an OPSPA update this evening, Trustees Gray and Daniele?
I can start that off. Yes, thank you. We had this past weekend Central West meetings, which was attended down in Niagara region, hosted at a fairly new school, 4-year-old school, West. Yeah, and there was representatives from across the region there. We had 5 of our trustees from Halton in attendance, which was wonderful. I wanted just one takeaway that I wanted to share tonight was just a reminder to all trustees that it's Take Your MPP to School Week during May 19 to 22. So if you have the opportunity to reach out to your MPP to see if they're available for a school tour and can arrange that, that would be great. I'd give it back to Donna for any other information to be shared.
Just a reminder, the OPSPA AGM is coming up in Ottawa. And for anyone who has an interest in any of the OPSPA elected positions, the deadline is tomorrow at 4:30.
Thank you very much. Do we have any trustee questions of clarification regarding tonight's agenda? And seeing none, we will move on to trustee news. Any exciting events to tell us about in your schools? I know all the exciting stuff happens in June. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Trustee Gray.
Thank you very much. This is just a news from around the entire region of Halton. And I just wanted to make mention of the fact that the Halton Learning Foundation month has just been completed, and I sat on the committee this past month for that. And I wanted to just let all the trustees know that there were a record number of schools that participated in various events to raise the profile of the HLF and spread the news about the amazing supportive work of this organization. For anyone that did not get that chance to contribute in any financial way to the HLF, certainly just visit their website. There's always opportunities to do so. But I think we'll soon hear that it was a fabulous month where lots of community engagement and school engagement took place. And I think the HLF is very grateful for that. Thank you.
And Vice Chair Oliver.
Thank you. On May 30th, I had the joy of attending Shrek, the junior musical, at Pilgrim Wood. I received the invitation from Shrek himself back in the fall and was very excited to attend. And I know that Superintendent McIntosh attended the opening night and loved it as well. I would like to publicly applaud the entire cast and crew of this wonderful production for a spectacular performance on stage and backstage. And I would like to express huge gratitude to the entire staff of Pilgrim Wood, who went above and beyond in supporting this production. putting their own skills, talents, and time into it and supporting every cast and crew member so that they could shine. I appreciate that many of our schools put on various musicals, plays, concerts, art shows, and talent shows at various times of the year. And it is the dedication of staff in supporting their students that I value, respect, and applaud. No matter what the event, it builds memories for our students and families that last a lifetime. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we'll head into private session.
Great.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Can't get
Trustee
my
Rocha.
request to speak to work. I think in how it was nice to get an update on the multi-year strategic plan. So I'm going to speak a little bit to kindness, connection, and community. And both my high schools, Iroquois Ridge High School and Oakville Trafalgar High School, are both participating in Relay for Life this month. Iroquois Ridge this Friday and OT on May 28th. And both these high schools are the embodiment of kindness, connection, and community. They raise well over $100,000 every time they do Relay for Life. And it just speaks volumes as to what our students are capable of and how they're looking out for one another and the community as a whole. So if you're able to donate to either an Iroquois Ridge team or to Oakville Trafalgar team, that would be great, and bringing up their numbers as well. So thank you.
And thank you for that. Now we will head into private session. Private meetings are not open to the public pursuant to Education Act 2072. Trustee Baxter, would you move a motion to go into committee of the whole private session respecting negotiation, personal, and private matters?
Yes, I would.
And Trustee Rocha, would you second this motion?
I will second.
Thank you. Are there any objections to moving into private session? Seeing none, the motion is passed by unanimous consent, and we are now in private session. Vice Chair Oliver, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much.
We are now in public session, and we are at section 8 of the agenda. As there is no business from private session that requires approval, we will move straight into adjournment. We have exhausted our agenda, so I call this meeting adjourned.